you, and thank you. And I hope all your listeners are having a great day. It's a wonderful day here in North Carolina.
So let's tell our listeners they can find you at, is it Common Core Diva?
Yes, if you just would put in your general search, if you just type in Common Core Diva, you should be able to see that it pops up, and it's usually followed, like, I think it's all run together. It says Common Core Diva, then .wordpress.com. I'm also on Twitter. You can find me there using the @ symbol, and then just put in Common Core Diva there. You can also find me under my Facebook page, which is Lynn, that's LYNNE, M as in Marie, Taylor, TAYLOR. So I'm on Facebook as well.
Very good. All right. So the topic we're going to discuss today is what you have just posted on a couple pages earlier this morning, Upskilling America. Upskilling, SKILLING. Not upscaling, Upskilling America. And this is part 1. But talk to us a little bit. What are we talking about here?
Okay, let me tell you just a little bit before I go into what it is. Let me tell you how I found it. I was on Twitter yesterday doing some research, and I happened to see a legislative calendar for another pro-Common Core group, and I was looking at some of the things that they're calling attention to and wanting to support, things like reauthorizing the H.R. 5 and then the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act as well. So I was curious, and I thought, well, I wonder what some of the other pro groups are doing as far as their legislative alerts. And so I went and looked at the Council of Chief State School Officers, and in their particular legislative action calendar was this one group called the American Association of Community Colleges. But then right behind it, it said Workforce Development Institute. Now, as much as I have researched, I have not heard of this particular institute. Now, I've heard a lot about workforce, and I know from all the research that I've done that Common Core is most definitely in our post-secondary educational realm, which will impact students of all ages and from all educational backgrounds. So I went and I started digging into them, and it was the video that was embedded on the particular page for the Institute where this term Upskilling America was used. It's not necessarily the name of a program as it is sort of a concept for an idea that we need to make sure that our workers are as aligned with businesses. So that would mean that we have not only businesses involved in education, which we know we've seen what that has happened. It would be that we're tailoring our post-secondary education to those businesses. So that's pretty much the concept behind the upskilling.
Okay, so we've heard talk about certificates, that students will not be able to graduate without a certificate. And if they don't have the certificate, that then they will not be able to be employed. And some are saying no matter how old you are, this is going to be retroactive. And if you don't have the certificate, you haven't gone through the process and you may not be able to get a job. Is that similar to what you're talking about?
I believe that it's probably going to be intertwined in through there. Probably your most common denominator in all of this would be what's called the Work Keys Assessment. Now, according to different states, and you would have to look at each of the ones as far as graduation requirements, because I do know that some states are now reconfiguring graduate criteria to include these Work Keys assessments so that you can supposedly streamline on into, say, a community college or a career technical course or something like that. And it is those Work Key assessments that no matter what age you are, because I know that probably about 6 or 7 months ago, I was able to access a video from the city of Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the public works crew had to go in and take this Work Keys assessment as well. And if they didn't take this assessment and they didn't have the results, then no, they could not go on and get jobs. And so, yes, that is very much probably going to be your most common denominator.
Okay, this is a work crew that had to take this. These were all folks who are already employed?
Some of them were already employed, but some of them were also seeking new jobs. And so the mindset behind this whole, yes, we need to have this assessment, is to try to streamline what your talents are. And let's say, for example, that you and I went in and we took it, and we're by profession we are activists. But let's say our assessment showed us that we were more skilled at, say, paper folding. Then everything that we would do from that point on would be geared toward our learning how to paper fold, not what our real interests or talents are.
Okay, so I'm thinking back to all of the folks, the man who is the founder of Hershey, the lovely chocolate that we all enjoy, obviously very successful. And I'm trying to find very quickly the bio that I had read on him, but grew up poor, extremely poor, and I don't think had much of an education, but went on to create Hershey's chocolate. Obviously very successful.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying, this would not be able to happen.
It doesn't appear that those kind of entrepreneurs are going to be the ones that are sought out anymore. And this is what is so troubling, is because without those sorts of entrepreneurs or creative spirits, we're not going to have much choice. And to me, that is the one thing that I've noticed is another common denominator throughout all this education reform, no matter what age it is that our choice, our freedom is being slowly and very craftily taken right out from under our noses.
It absolutely is. But so to folks who are listening who think, I don't have kids in school anymore, this doesn't impact me. You're saying it absolutely will. In the workforce, it absolutely will.
There is no absolute doubt about it. All right, let me give you an example. Okay, in North Carolina, we are what's known as a right-to-work state. So until legislation is changed, we don't necessarily have some of the hoops to jump through to get jobs, because we believe that everyone should have one. However, we have seen that AccuPlacer, Aspire, and all these other work keys types assessments are slowly starting to come in. But let's contrast that with, say, the state of Georgia. In certain counties there, if you have not taken the work keys and gotten this certificate, then no, you cannot apply for a job. And I know that this goes on in other states as well. So my children, two of them are homeschool graduates. One is in college right now. She's getting slammed with Common Core aligned courses. My other child is in community college. She's absolutely getting slammed with that, but she's also finding out where she is that, okay, I was a homeschool graduate. I was an honor graduate. I, had no problem going in my college career so far, but yet when I want to go try to find a job, I now have all these parameters that I've never had before, which is I didn't take this test, or I don't have that assessment, or I don't have this certificate. So it won't matter what educational choice you're in when you, or if you purpose to not have Common Core through your homeschool K through 12, when they leave your home and they go to enter the workforce, or they go to enter a college, that is where the rubber hits the road.
Okay, so I'm coming back. I'm looking up my Hershey biography to see if I'm right on this.
Okay.
And Milton Hershey failed. Let me see if I can find this. He was a philanthropist who founded Hershey Chocolate Corporation, popularized the chocolate candy throughout much of the world, and obviously successful. But it says here, after 2 failed attempts. So he failed at something first. That experience probably helped him in setting up the Hershey that we know, the Lancaster Caramel Company. And in 1900, he sold the company and focused on perfecting the formula for the chocolate bars and began building the site that became the world's largest chocolate manufacturing plant. Why am I bringing this up? Because my point is, he didn't always succeed. He might have failed. He might have failed some tests. We're not even sure about his education. Lacking is what I think I read before. My point being, Lynn, you probably know people, I know people who have started careers late in life that one was not what their education was in. We know countless people who have degrees and they're working in another vocation, another career field, nothing to do with their degree. We know others who may not have a degree, and yet they're some of the wisest, most educated people we know because they've continued to learn, just not in that that educational institutional system, which gives a degree. So these people, what we're doing is, are we basically instilling a caste system in America?
You know, I think that is the mindset, because if you look at some of these, if you really peel back the layers behind some of these pro-organizations, you will see, pro-Common Core organizations, you will see that it's not so much education reform as it is America reform. And what better way to do this than through the dividing, if you will, of the masses. In the particular article that I wrote today, the key person who was speaking, one of the things that he kept reiterating, and this was kind of like, oh my goodness, he kept pointing out the brilliance of the few, but the efforts of the many will be what deliver us. Well, if you look at the different college career, technical career pathways, career clusters, the bulk of the class of the material is for those who would be in what's known as the blue collar, whereas those who with the more typical white collar jobs, their options are much fewer. And the whole design, from what I've been able to research and find, is we don't need a whole lot of leaders. We need just a few. But we need all these minions, so to speak, to carry this out. And one of the other examples that was brought up, you brought up Mr. Hershey. Well, think about Mr. Ford. In this particular speech that I'm referencing that is in my article today, we all know Henry Ford has a massive institution now. He also has a huge foundation that lives on in his name. One of the most pro-Common Core supportive entities out there, but yet it was his hard work and the way he drove his people that was being, glorified in this particular speech that I listened to. And it was, in one respect, Henry Ford was fabulous, but in another respect, if you look at the way he was as a person, he was a horrible person towards his workers. He was very mean, and the reason I bring this up is not to pick on him, but it's just, if we're going to have these leaders, be they many, be they few, we need to really make sure that they're groomed in character, not just this is how we do this, and this is the only way you do this, and, you're out here to make a profit for me. No, we should be, if we're going to lead well, we need to follow well, and that's not what I'm seeing with all this alignment.
Well, and it doesn't take as much imagination, Lynn. The folks who came up with Facebook, didn't he drop out of college?
I think he did.
Bill Gates or Jobs, didn't one of them drop out of college?
Yep.
So obviously, Henry Ford might have been a benefactor of the time in which he lived. But if he were now trying to do the same thing today, then the very program which you're saying they support, and I didn't know, Ford is big support behind Common Core?
Oh, sweetie, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, so the very program they're supporting, it would create his failure. He would not be allowed the same freedom to be an entrepreneur and be successful.
Oh, there are many of the pro supporters that if they were having to go back through what we're seeing our kids faced with, or our people who are going back to work after so many years, because, it's going to hit them too. Let's face it, I'm going to be retiring from my school in about a month. I will be capable to, theoretically, to get back in the workforce. And guess what I'm going to get slammed with? The same stuff. So it's not going to matter. But it's just unbelievable how America is buying into this, and it's being sold to us that the only way you can succeed is to go through these particular aligned courses, and the only thing that matters is your diploma or your certificate. It's just, I'm sorry, it's bull.
Politely said. I want to come back. Henry Ford, it's appropriate because I use him as an example when I talk about Common Core. When we hear that you can choose your own curriculum, we hear that often here in the state. People say